Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is James McCormick. James, how are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, sure. I am currently I'm the CEO of a company called Cloudastructure. We are a public company on NASDAQ. Went public at the end of January of this year. Ticker symbol CSAI. We are a video surveillance company using artificial intelligence to protect enterprise customers. Our first big push was into multifamily properties that we're doing very well in. We are addressing additional verticals now, like transportation and logistics, construction, those kinds of markets, and it's going very, very well for us.
You know, one of the things that really interests me about you was that you were part of an HBO documentary.
I was not. So, right. There was an HBO documentary on a company called General Magic, which was a company that went public in 1995, was actually, of all things, a spin out of Apple. They went public in what was, at the time, the first great concept IPO in Silicon Valley, which is a polite way of saying no real products, no revenue. But a phenomenal, just an absolutely phenomenal strategy, I guess you would say, of basically they created the iPhone, right, or the portable device before the internet was commercialized and you could really move data between devices. I was part of a team that came in after that original business model failed, and we came in, looked at the technology and said, what can we do with what's here? What can we create? And we turned it into a voice services company. Basically, in 1999 and 2000, we created Siri before, right, anybody was thinking along those lines, which was pretty interesting. The problem, of course, was trying to get the attention and explaining the business model and how it could work to the cellular carriers. At the peak, we had about 2.5 million subscribers on the system. Then a bunch of us that had come in and built the company up just decided to do other things. And ultimately, the company went away. And Paul Allen, if I'm not mistaken, bought all the patents. And I believe licensed some of those patents to the folks that are doing the voice piece for Siri now.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a long road.
That's really, really, really interesting. I know you had some C-suite.
Yes, sir.
Positions there.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about that.
About
just kind of, you got a company that doesn't really have much of anything. You're kind of in this bubble, which we're kind of seeing with AI.
Yes, sir.
AI is more, I think, a little more tangible, but what was it really like? Because for me, like, I was kind of young. I'm 47. So I kind of remember, the internet being kind of this thing where you can go on and play like Dungeons and Dragons, or you have like a dial-up server and you can like, play solitaire and all kinds of stuff against other people. But what was it really like when you had a company that didn't really have anything, was trying to do something very, very cutting edge? Was it a lot of like sleeping on couches like we hear about? Was it a lot of, you hear about, Apple and, Steve Jobs and walking around and, a lot of that kind of stuff? Like, what was it really like?
Yeah, it was incredibly fascinating. For instance, I come up a traditional background from finance, accounting, those sorts of things. And all of a sudden, I'm in a room with a bunch of linguists, right, that are breaking down words into micro parts of a syllable. It was absolutely fascinating. It was an exhilarating time. We grew pretty rapidly in the second incantation of General Magic. There were a lot of very bright people around the table that worked tirelessly, as you mentioned, as you would expect. but it was also very, very frustrating, right? And it's one of the things that I've sort of taken away when I think about other businesses I've been involved with, which is certainly what we were doing. We were creating a product and hoping that there would be a market for it. And it didn't really pan out from an economic standpoint. So to me, you have to flip the script when you're thinking about companies you might work with or products you might develop. Make sure there's a market first, then figure out how you address that market.
I think that's the great thing about AI right now is like I can go on, I'm working on a faceless YouTube channel, and I can go on and look up, popular YouTube channels that are faceless or popular YouTube channels about horror and horrible crimes, let's just say, right? You can look up anything.
Yeah.
I know I used to look up like relationship advice on AI.
Interesting.
And I would read all kinds, like hours and hours and hours of reading. Because AI will be like, well, would you like me to add more things to it? Would you like me to come up with a plan? Would you like me to come up with a structure for, posting on, just a whole wild amount of stuff. Versus the internet back then was a great unknown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People didn't know, right? They knew it was something, but it took a while for it to mature to the point where you could figure out how you could use it, how it could be effective in helping you do things. It took a long time for that to materialize.
And then you worked with one of the founders of Google.
I did.
Okay.
I did indeed. Yes, exactly. Interesting, very interesting company. I was at a previous company that we sold to a public company based in Indiana. I was looking for something to do. In a prior life, one of the investors in a company I worked with became the CEO of the family office for Sergey Brin, who was one of the co-founders of Google, obviously. And Sergey's a very, very interesting person. I guess you might say almost sort of a Renaissance man, really fascinated by aviation and aviation technology. And for a variety of reasons, he wanted to build, he wanted to create a modern airship like the Graf Zeppelin, not to the Graf Zeppelin scale, right?
Right.
So I came in as originally as COO, then president and COO, to take responsibility, in essence, for everything other than engineering, all right, which was or included manufacturing. This is a 400-foot vehicle, approximately 200 feet in diameter. So it's pretty dang big. It's twice the size of a jumbo jet. And not one had not been built in 100 years. Now, the old ones, it was aluminum and drilled out aluminum and wires and stuff. Ours was modern materials. So, the substructure is carbon fiber tubes, very special, obviously, and hand-welded titanium hubs, about 9,000 tubes, 3,000 hubs.
Wow.
Sounds simple enough. It was not. But it's built. They've been doing test flights recently, including one where it flew over the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. So it's right there. They're taking it to the next level now and figuring out where it goes from there.
That's pretty wild.
Indeed. You would not. What I would always say to people when we would take them into Hangar 3 at Moffett Field, where it was housed, I would always say, when you walk through this door, you're gonna see something you don't see every day.
All right.
And just the reaction on people's face, even when you explain what it is, when they physically see it, they're like, "Oh." The scale is just unbelievable.
I bet. I'll probably do the same thing. Like, what in the world?
Indeed.
Talk to me a little bit about cloud structure.
Yeah. So,
cloud structure.
Cloud structure. Yeah. So I gave you a little bit of a lead in up front, but let me talk about it a little bit more. So again, we are a video surveillance company using artificial intelligence, which we were just talking a little bit about, to basically deter crime from happening at enterprise customers. I mentioned our first real big market was multifamily customers. Think about it, big apartment complexes. We work now with 7 of the 10 largest multifamily property management companies in the United States.
Wow.
That's impressive. So what do? We go in and we either, if it's a new installation, right, we will figure out where cameras need to go, speakers need to go, and we have a proprietary device. We call it a cloud video recorder. So traditional security has been using a network video recorder, either a solid state drive or a tape or something. We actually take the videos, right, from a customer site, put them through our cloud video recorder, put them up in the cloud down into our AI servers where they analyze what's going on, right? And for instance, today we're processing more than 8 million videos a day, okay? What happens is that we run it through the models. We've trained our system not on clip art, but on actual images of, hey, is that a person with a crowbar or a person with a stapler trying to do something in the mailroom? Or is that someone jiggling car doors in the parking garage? So what happens is if we detect or if we identify something as a possible threatening event, it goes to humans in the loop. We have a remote guard facility, a whole team of people located in Asia because of the time difference and the hours and such, where they will get a live feed that got triggered by our servers and see if it is indeed a threatening activity. If it is, they can do one of a few things. They can talk down to the person with the speaker system. Hey, you in the blue hoodie, right, with the crowbar, you're being videotaped. The authorities have been contacted, that sort of thing. 98% of the time, the problem stops before it became a problem, right? So we have a 98% deterrence rate as well as a 99% customer retention rate. So that's a little bit about what we're doing.
So it seems like the AI takes out the live security person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So give you a couple metrics. A human watching screens maybe can watch 10, maybe, before they get bored or miss something, whatever. Our guards, because of the AI software, can watch up to or monitor up to 70 screens. So it's very efficient. It really makes a huge difference. And we can and have replaced physical security guards. Face it, at 2 a.m, if you have a property in a cold climate, does the guard really want to be going around checking doors? No, he wants to sit in his car, maybe have a smoke, maybe fall asleep, right? So the economics are incredibly compelling on what we can save over traditional guards. But more importantly, think of it this way. If you're a property manager for a large apartment complex, if we deter someone in a parking garage from breaking into 8 cars, that's money to the bottom line for the property manager. Why? Vacancy rates don't go down. People don't want to leave the property. They don't feel threatened. They don't feel unsafe. It's completely the opposite. So we're providing demonstrable return on investment, right, for the people that are investing in our products and services, and also delivering, I guess you would say, more content tenants, right, or other people that use our products and services.
I'm sure the reviews probably are way better too.
Meaning,
you know, like if you get into multifamily,
yes,
you know, apartments, they're gonna always talk about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
They're always gonna be like, "Oh, my car got broken
Absolutely.
into." Blah, blah, blah.
That's the point.
Right.
If you eliminate that, right? Yes, the review, right? Occupancy rates go up. People want to be a part of that community, right? It's just, you know, simple things you wouldn't necessarily think about, like people after hours in the pool making a nuisance, right? You know, identify, talk down, excuse me, right? You by the pool, if you could please vacate the area, the pool's closed. You get the idea, right?
I got the question in my
Yes, sir.
head.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to actually happen. But
Okay.
what about using that service that you have, the business,
Mm-hmm.
and then changing it for like casinos for people that gamble? Is there a way to like watch that?
So, as you might expect, well, so casinos, whole different matter, right? And
Right,
and
right.
as we know
Because
from
I was just thinking about it. It was like
yeah.
eyes on target, kind of like watching people.
Right. I mean, not the most ideal situation, just because there's a constant flood of motion and people.
Right.
Where technologies like ours could work in a casino might be there's someone that you've identified as a cheat, and you want to use facial recognition to know if someone on your don't enter list is actually in your casino. So we could probably assist in an area like that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Talk to me about the IPO and how you got that done, which is difficult. I looked at doing IPO for a couple of my companies.
Okay.
It's not easy.
No, it is not.
No.
It is absolutely not. So let me compare and contrast. So I was part of a team. We took an online printing company public in the early 2000s, just before the bubble burst.
Right.
Right. And that was a very methodical, drawn out, longish, expensive process. Why? You have to build a book of business, right? I mean, there's pros and cons, but you have to build a book of business.
For investors.
For investors, right. For people that say, yes, I will buy so many of your shares at such a price. The good news from that is that when you go public, you actually you sell those shares and you get the cash in the bank from selling those shares. But it is a long, arduous process, right? Mm-hmm. We started in Europe. The only good part of that is I got to fly on Concorde twice there and back. That was kind of interesting, right? And then, around the major markets in the U.S., it was an exhausting process, just exhausting. So we went public at Cloudastructure through what's called a direct listing, where you go direct to NASDAQ based on, there's a number of criteria that you have to meet, a certain valuation goal or target, I guess you would say, that's agreed to between you and NASDAQ. You still have to get your S1 through the SEC. Theoretically, the direct listing process should be shorter, easier, and more economical than the traditional IPO process. And we did make it out about 4.5 months later than we thought we would, because when we took the printing company public in the 2000s, NASDAQ was like, everybody, come on, let's go.
Right.
It's a big party, right?
Right.
The SEC was your biggest stumbling block that you had to deal with. We found just the opposite. The SEC goes through its review, as they should, and they do. They're very, very good and very thorough, right, at identifying potential risks and such. But NASDAQ, just given the number of bad actors that have been able to get companies public, micro cap companies that, end up trading over the counter, they don't want that to happen, right? With companies that they're allowing to go public on their exchange. So they were actually maybe twice as nitpicky as the SEC, which lengthened the time frame, but we still were able to get it done, right? We're a pretty determined group of people, and that we weren't going to settle for anything other than figuring it out.
I've looked at it. It's definitely pricey. There's definitely a lot of legwork.
Yes, sir.
And I've looked at all kinds of workarounds, like, buying a shell company, doing it this way, doing it. At the end of the day, it's really the same amount of work.
Yep. I think ultimately it's a little less work, but the roadshow concept where we had to, previously go to locations, meet with the Fidelities of the world, that kind of stuff. It was interesting,
right?
But that was very expensive and took a long time, right? Versus the direct listing process. I would do it again if I had an opportunity. I would do direct listing over traditional IPO. That's my take.
We have a lot of people in the audience that are entrepreneurs, small business owners. And when people hear about C-suite, I've been on a lot of board of directors, so I'm very familiar with that stuff. But talk to me about your day-to-day as a C-suite person, CEO, CFO, COO, whatever it is. Because I've seen it, and it's not what a lot of people put on their Instagram, that they're a CEO of their own company or this or that.
Yeah.
It's not, to be a CEO, you have to have a board of directors.
Yes, that's correct.
Be their first part, right?
Yeah.
So then the second thing is, it's not that easy. I mean, you're at the top. So when you walk into the boardroom as any sort of C-suite, and you sit down at the board of director table, it's a hot seat.
It is. Absolutely it is. What I used to tell people, so you sort of hit the front end of it. So I've been CEO, COO, CFO, public and private companies. I like to say I'm a Swiss Army knife. Right? You have a company, what do you need? Chances are I could probably slot into the organization, right? Until Clouded Structure, and I'm not just saying this, I disliked being the CEO over any other set of responsibilities that I had. Why? Because you just get yelled at more than anybody else because, as you said, you're at the tip of the sword, right? For lack of a better phrase. So, everybody has certain expertise. I came up through the finance ranks. So, coming up that way, I understand sales pretty well. I understand marketing pretty well. I understand engineering, but I didn't come up the engineering route, I guess you would say, right? So with any company where you're on the C-suite, doesn't matter if you're CFO, COO, CEO, you've really got to dig in and understand enough about the components of the business and the personalities that are responsible for those aspects of the business in order to be successful in helping lead transformation and to help grow the business just in general, if that makes sense, right? You have to be a strong advocate for the company. Sometimes you have to be a babysitter. Sometimes you have to jump in as like a parent with kids and say, okay, this friction has to stop. We have to figure out a way to do things differently, right? You have to figure out ways constantly to keep the business on track from a product development and product delivery standpoint, and all while you're trying to gain additional customers, grow your revenue, and take the business towards profitability. It's a lot.
It is. I sat on a couple of different boards. I was at a bank where I was acting CFO, and it wasn't easy because it's really, you're the mouthpiece for the people below you.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
And
absolutely.
If their reports are off, or they decided to, be hungover the night before and give you some bad numbers, or you go out and do a presentation and it's all bad, you're not only getting it from the CEO, but you're also getting it from the investors that are investing in your business, product, whatever it is.
Yep.
So if you're on there, you got a pretty hot seat.
I agree.
If you're on there and you say, hey, we have year over year, we're, getting 25%, profit, blah, 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 and you're just rambling on about that kind of stuff. And really you're at 12.
Yeah. That's,
not
good.
Woo,
not good.
No.
Not good.
No.
Well, the other thing. So, huge difference between being a private company, right? And depending on, do you have institutional investors? Do you have VC investors? Did you bootstrap it? Versus all of that versus being a public company, because the scrutiny goes up tenfold?
Yeah.
At least tenfold.
Yeah, the town hall meetings where you talk about what's going on with the company.
Yeah.
What's not going, and then you take calls from a lot of them are just people that invest and trade stock.
Yep.
So it'll be calls about, where are you at with this product? Where are you at with that? Why is it taking so long? Where do you see your numbers coming in at the line? I mean, it's just a lot. And
it is a lot. And you have to be, as a public company, you have to be very cautious, very careful about not signaling where you think you're going before it's time to announce that information, if that makes sense, right? You got to be so cautious about what you say.
Yeah, the mouthpiece is the biggest thing. Because if you say something that, just look at the Fed, right? If the Fed says something that's dovish, everybody goes out and starts buying stock. If the Fed says something very hawkish, then everybody starts selling.
Absolutely.
And it could be a word, it could be a verb, it could be,
subtle, something subtle.
He touches eyebrow, like it could be anything.
Excuse me. Yep.
It's just really, really wild. Talk to me about just scaling companies, and I know that you've scaled multiple.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know, and this is my final question.
Okay.
If you were to go back in time, all the stuff that you've done, all the companies that you've scaled, built, what is the one thing that you learned that you wish you would have known that you know now?
Can I give you two things?
Sure.
Okay. First one. Most important. I don't care if you're private, public, startup, huge. You have to constantly keep an eye on what you're doing from a cash management standpoint. To me, that's number one. I work with our CFO, Greg Smitherman, who's, phenomenal, very, very experienced. And that's a big focus of how we think about the business, right? We're not cash flow positive right at the moment, and I'm not tipping anything to the market. That's in all our public filings. But as we look to 2026 and beyond, that is the discipline that we're trying to drive and instill in the organization of, great. And again, I'm not signaling, I'm giving you a theoretical, right? Hey, we're going to triple revenue. Okay, that'd be great, but we can't lose twice as much money doing it, right? So heavy, strong focus on cash management would be one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to anyone, right, that is thinking of running a business or currently running a business. Number two, and it's related directly, but don't build the organization too far out in front of where you're at from a product traction or revenue generation standpoint. That, to me, ultimately that ties back to the cash component, but it's very, very easy to say, oh my goodness, things are going so well, getting our products in the marketplace. Let's quadruple the size of the sales organization. Well, now we just violated rule number one.
Right.
So you have to have the discipline and the balance. It's not easy to do. Nobody wants to, what's that old adage, right? Nobody wants to hear that their baby's ugly. Right. Right? So you want to have enthusiasm for your business. You want to be proud of what your team's accomplishing, but you have to do it in a fiscally prudent manner.
James, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, wanted to know more about your history, wanted to know maybe more about Cloudastructure, where would they find you?
They could email me directly, james@cloudastructure.com. On our website, there's also access to the marketing team, general questions, investor relations, those sorts of things. But if someone has a question, please feel free, reach out. Love to pass along some additional information if it helps anybody.
James, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Awesome.